So now we were going to have our talk last week, but you had something come up, and you told me that I should ask you about that. What happened?
Okay, well, um, in a nutshell, we have a site in the Bronx that was built around 2006. Okay, the building next to our building was built the exact same time by the exact same contractor, by the exact same engineer, and the exact same architect. So they built both buildings at the same time. Our building is not subject to local law 11. Local law 11 is the facade inspection. Our building's 4 stories tall. You have to do a facade inspection every 5 years in New York City if your building is 6 stories and above. That building is 8. They're doing their local law 11 work, a lot of issues, and they decided to start doing some probes into their building. And they're finding out that the contractor did not uh, tie in the facade properly. They did not support the parapets properly according to the blueprints. So you have issues with the parapets, issues with the facade. New correction work is going to be millions of dollars. Okay, so the building who did the probes, their director said, we should tell our neighbor because it's the exact same contractors and engineer and architect. So they sent us the probes, and I needed to get up there with an engineer to take a look at our building to find out if we will have these same issues. None of the same issues are showing that they're having because there is some differences, but we still wanted to get it checked out to make sure that we don't have issues. So we don't have any issues with our facade or parapet, but it's a smaller building, less stressors, but we want to make sure that we don't get these issues 5 years from now, 10 years from now.
That's actually quite interesting. You think how many times that happens that you have two buildings exactly kind of the same, like you're mentioning, and that you can one's wearing faster than the other for one reason or another or whatever it is.
A
Now
lot
you
faster.
Yeah, and you can use the information you gain from that building to start to look ahead and what you need to look at before something happens. I wonder how often you can use that type of information.
It's interesting, but the engineer that I hired to take a look at their probe results and take a essentially a gander at our building said, you know what? He's working on the exact same project where they didn't tie in the facade properly, they didn't do the parapets properly. That was built at the exact same time around 2000, 2006, and they're doing all the corrective actions on that building. So I luckily got an engineer who has that sort of experience where um, there was no oversight. I am a firm believer if you're doing a project, you don't have your facilities manager be the project manager. They don't have the time. You hire a specific project manager to keep an eye on everything. Uh, I I inherited this building after it was built. I was kind of angry. I said I wanted to be more involved while it was being built, especially since they dropped all the data cables. They missed the file server room and dropped everything into the sewage ejector room. Uh, you heard me. Because they didn't hire a project manager. They wanted to save $20, and they end up spending $1 million. You know what I mean? I see so many non-for-profits thinking, "Oh, we can do it ourselves," and they can't, or they're paying for it years down the line. Here's an example of the nursing home I worked at. I was hired, and they said, "We're doing these renovations to the bistro. They're enlarging it and making a new kitchen." Oh, I said, "That's interesting." And they're like, "No, no, no, you're not going to be involved. You're going to be learning the building, learn the facilities, learn your staff. Don't get involved with this construction project." I'm like, "Okay." And I said, "Who's your project manager?" "Oh, the chief financial officer." I'm like, "Oh," I kept my mouth shut, but I'm like, "Well, that's a bad idea." So the first day of construction is like my first week of work, and I meet the contractor. "How you doing?" We're all gathered together in the bistro, which was shut down because they're going to tear down a wall. And I clap my hands together. I go, "This is exciting. Who has the permits?" The contractor looks at me and shakes his head. "I didn't not contract it out to get any permits." The chief financial officer is standing there and goes, That was me. I'll be back. Okay, he didn't get the permits for the job because he's not a project manager. He's a chief financial officer. It's, and I'm sure you've heard this a million times.
You have to know what you're doing, and you have to have the right people doing the job that they're supposed to be doing. And sometimes, the person at the top wants to have some more control over things, and but they have to realize that there's people with expertise that'll actually get the job done more effectively than they could. And
No,
they can
it's a way of saying
participate, but
it's
yeah.
what one thing that I always have very easy thing saying is, especially when I'm working, to stop a contractor and say, I don't know what you're saying. You're just went over my head. I don't understand anything. Most people can't do that. They just nod their head and go, okay, and then the person leaves and they don't know what's going on. I go, I have no idea. Especially some new simplex fire alarm. He starts talking about. It. I'm like, wait a minute, English. I don't know. And all the maintenance guys are nodding their head like they're pretending they're understanding it. And then they go, well, we don't understand either. You're nodding your head, you do. Just tell them you don't understand. No, it doesn't reflect on you.
Well, when you have the confidence of the stuff you do know and you know that it's correct, then when you hear something that you don't understand, it's not a big deal to say, well, you have to, you can't just wow me with marketing terms here. I don't talk the same language as you, and you've been selling this product forever. So now give it to me like I don't know anything, which is the way they should be talking to you about it because it's new to you, right? So
Yeah. It's also I was in a meeting and there was a pottery school going under gut rehabilitation, big, and the executive directors start looking at me and he starts talking like I'm like whoa 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 whoa, you're talking to me like I'm a project manager. I'm a facilities manager. You got to hire a project manager. You're not paying me nearly enough to be a facilities manager and project manager. Said you don't ask this stuff from a facilities manager. You ask this stuff from a project manager. He's like, okay, okay, okay. Um, but yeah, you have to also put your foot down and say you can't do everything. And I don't want that liability. I said I'll be the project manager, but that's all I'm going to be for this one project. I can't do all this other stuff and supervise the staff and make sure the toilets are clean and working. I got to focus over here.
absolutely.